In the year 2087, Earth was a planet on the edge of destruction. The skies were dark with smoke from burning cities, and the ground shook constantly from explosions. Humanity had been fighting a war against an alien empire called the Varathi for over 20 years. These aliens came from another part of the galaxy and possessed weapons far beyond anything humans could imagine. They moved like shadows across space, striking quickly and leaving devastation behind them. The Varathi were not cruel by nature, but saw themselves as superior beings destined to rule the universe. To them, humanity was nothing more than ants small, weak, and easily crushed. But despite their overwhelming power, they hadn't completely destroyed Earth yet. Instead, they played a long game, slowly weakening human resistance while conserving their own resources. It was clear that if something didn't change soon, humanity would vanish forever. Amid this chaos stood Yuna Kim, a young diplomat from Seoul. She wasn't a soldier or a scientist. She was just a woman who believed in peace when everyone else had given up hope. Her parents had died during one of the first Varathi attacks, and ever since, she dedicated her life to finding ways to stop the bloodshed. Over time, people began to notice her determination and sharp mind. She became known as someone who could negotiate even in the most impossible situations. One day, news spread through what remained of Earth's governments. The Varathi wanted to talk about ending the war. At first, no one believed it. It seemed too good to be true. But when the message came again, louder and clearer this time, leaders around the world scrambled to respond. The offer was simple. The Varathi would leave Earth alone, but only under one condition. That condition shocked everyone who heard it. Yuna was summoned to a meeting at United Earth Command Headquarters in Geneva. When she arrived, generals and politicians filled the room, all looking tense and uneasy. A holographic screen flickered to life, showing the image of a Varathi commander, a tall, insect-like creature with shimmering green skin and glowing eyes. Its voice echoed coldly through the speakers. "We will end our campaign against your species," the Varathi said. "But there is a price. One of your kind must marry one chosen by us. This union will seal the truce." Silence fell over the room. No one spoke for several moments. Finally, someone asked the question everyone was thinking. Why? What does marriage have to do with stopping a war? The Varathi tilted its head slightly, as though amused by the question. "It is not your place to understand our reasons. Accept or refuse, we will wait no longer than 3 days." When the transmission ended, arguments erupted among the leaders. Some thought it was a trick, a way to humiliate humanity further. Others believed it might actually work, desperate as they were. In the middle of the chaos, Yuna raised her hand to speak. "I'll do it," she said firmly. All eyes turned to her. "If marrying one of their chosen can save billions of lives, then I'll do it." Her words stunned the room into silence once more. For a moment, no one responded. Then, slowly murmurs of agreement began to rise. Yuna was already respected for her diplomatic skills, and many felt she was the best choice. After hours of debate, the decision was made. Yuna would represent humanity in this strange pact. 2 days later, Yuna found herself standing inside a massive Varathi cruiser hovering high above Earth. The ship was enormous, its metallic walls gleaming like liquid silver. Alien guards escorted her to a grand hall where the ceremony would take place. As she walked, she couldn't help but feel nervous. What kind of person or thing had the Varathi chosen for her? When she entered the hall, she saw him immediately. He was sitting quietly on a bench near the center of the room, dressed in plain clothes that looked almost human. His name was Kai Li, and he appeared completely ordinary. He had short black hair, warm brown eyes, and a calm expression that made him seem approachable. If Yuna hadn't known better, she would have assumed he was just another survivor pulled from the ruins of a city. Kai stood up when he saw her and bowed slightly. "You must be Yuna," he said softly. His voice was gentle, without any trace of arrogance or fear. "I'm sorry we're meeting like this." Yuna nodded, trying to hide her surprise. Somehow expected the Varithi's choice to be different, maybe monstrous, or at least intimidating. But Kai looked like anyone else. Still, she reminded herself not to let appearances fool her. There had to be a reason why the Varithi picked him. The ceremony itself was brief and impersonal. A Varithi priest performed the ritual using words neither Yuna nor Kai understood. When it was over, the Varithi commander appeared once more, this time via hologram. "The truce begins now," it declared. "We will withdraw our forces. Do not test our patience again." And just like that, the war ended. Within hours, Varithi ships disappeared from Earth's orbit, leaving behind an eerie quiet. People emerged from bunkers and shelters, blinking in disbelief at the sudden absence of danger. News outlets broadcast images of ruined cities and joyful survivors, all united by the miracle of peace. Back on Earth, Yuna and Kai returned to Seoul together. They moved into a small apartment provided by the government, both unsure of what the future held. Despite everything, Yuna found herself liking Kai. He was kind, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in helping others. Together, they traveled to different parts of the world, assisting in rebuilding efforts and offering comfort to those still recovering from the war. But even as she grew closer to him, questions lingered in Yuna's mind. Why had the Varithi chosen Kai? What made him so special? And most importantly, why had the aliens agreed to such a bizarre arrangement in the first place? One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their apartment watching the sunset, Yuna decided to ask. "Kai," she began hesitantly, "do you know why the Varithi picked you? You don't seem extraordinary." Kai smiled faintly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I've wondered about that myself," he admitted. "All I know is that I woke up one morning with a message telling me I'd been selected. I didn't argue. I figured it was fate." Yuna frowned. Something about his answer didn't sit right with her. Fate? That seemed too vague, too coincidental. Deep down, she suspected there was more to Kai than met the eye. Little did she know how true that suspicion would turn out to be. For now, however, the world celebrated. Peace had come unexpectedly, and for the first time in decades, people dared to dream of a brighter future. Yet beneath the surface, questions simmered, waiting to boil over. And somewhere out there, beyond the stars, the Varithi watched and waited too. Whatever secret Kai carried, it was far from over. Life on Earth slowly began to return to normal, or at least as close to normal as it could get after decades of war. The absence of the Varithi was a relief, but it also left an uneasy feeling in the air. People were happy the attacks had stopped, yet they couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't quite right. How could such a powerful alien empire simply walk away? And why did their withdrawal hinge on one man? Yuna Kim and Kai Lee became symbols of this fragile peace. Their faces appeared on news broadcasts, posters, and even murals painted on the walls of rebuilt cities. Some called them heroes. Others whispered behind closed doors, calling them puppets or worse. Yuna tried to ignore the rumors, focusing instead on helping humanity heal. But Kai noticed how tense she seemed whenever they ventured outside. One morning, while walking through the streets of Seoul, Kai stopped suddenly. A group of children nearby pointed at him and giggled nervously before running off. He sighed, turning to Yuna with a faint smile. "I guess I'm still not used to being famous," he joked. Yuna forced a laugh, though her eyes betrayed her worry. She knew Kai didn't deserve the suspicion people directed at him. He worked tirelessly alongside her, volunteering in refugee camps and joining efforts to rebuild schools and hospitals. Despite his gentle nature, many saw him as a threat, a reminder of the aliens who had nearly destroyed their world. That evening, Back in their apartment, Yuna finally voiced what had been weighing on her mind. "Kai," she said softly, sitting across from him at the small kitchen table, "people are starting to ask questions. They want to know why you were chosen. Why you specifically." Kai looked down at his hands, which rested on the table. "I don't blame them for wondering," he replied. "But I've told you everything I know. I woke up one day with instructions to meet the Varithi. That's all there is to it." Yuna frowned. Something about his story didn't add up. If the Varithi truly feared humans enough to negotiate peace, why would they pick someone so ordinary? Kai didn't have any special skills or connections. He wasn't a soldier, a scientist, or even a politician. So why him? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. When she opened it, a young woman stood there, clutching a folder tightly to her chest. "Miss Kim?" The woman asked hesitantly. "My name is Haijin Choi. I work for United Earth Command. We need to speak with you and Mr. Lee urgently." Yuna exchanged a glance with Kai before inviting Haijin inside. The young officer explained that strange signals had been detected near Earth's orbit, signals matching those emitted by Varithi technology. While no ships had appeared yet, the patterns suggested activity. Worse still, reports were coming in from other parts of the globe describing unusual phenomena: glowing lights in the sky, sudden power outages, and tremors without clear causes. "We think the Varithi might be testing us," Haijin said grimly. "And if they are, we need to figure out what they're after before it's too late." After Haijin left, Yuna turned to Kai, her expression troubled. "Do you think they're watching us?" she asked. Kai shrugged, though his usual calm demeanor seemed strained. "It's possible. But if they wanted to hurt us, they've had plenty of chances already." Despite his reassurance, Yuna couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was brewing. Over the next few days, she kept a closer eye on Kai, noticing subtle changes in his behavior. He seemed distracted, often staring off into space as if listening to something only he could hear. Once, when they were grocery shopping, a glass bottle shattered in his hand, but strangely, he didn't bleed. Instead, the shards hovered briefly in midair before falling harmlessly to the floor. "Did you see that?" Yuna asked, her voice trembling. Kai nodded, looking pale. "Yeah," he muttered. "I saw it." They didn't talk about it again until later that night. Sitting together on the couch, Kai confessed that similar incidents had been happening for weeks. Objects moved without explanation. Lights flickered when he walked past. And sometimes he felt a strange warmth radiating from his skin. At first, he thought it was stress or exhaustion, but now he wasn't so sure. "I don't know what's happening to me," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But whatever it is, it scares me." Yuna reached out and took his hand. "We'll figure it out together," she promised. "Whatever's going on, we'll face it side by side." The next morning, Yuna decided to dig deeper. She contacted Dr. Min-Soo Park, a reclusive scientist known for his research on xenobiology, the study of alien life. Though retired, Dr. Park agreed to meet with her after hearing about Kai's situation. He lived in a remote cabin nestled deep within the mountains, surrounded by dense forests and towering peaks. When Yuna and Kai arrived, Dr. Park greeted them warmly, though his piercing gaze hinted at sharp intelligence. After explaining everything, Yuna watched as the old scientist examined Kai carefully, taking notes and occasionally muttering to himself. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "There's a legend among certain alien species," Dr. Park began, "about a race called the Arender. They were said to possess incredible powers, abilities, far beyond anything we can comprehend. According to the stories, they could manipulate reality itself, bending matter, energy, and even time to their will." Kai's eyes widened. "You think I'm one of them?" Dr. Park nodded slowly. "It's possible. The Arender disappeared thousands of years ago, but fragments of their bloodline may still exist. Sometimes, descendants inherit traces of their abilities. If the Verithy discovered your connection to the Arender, it would explain why they chose you. Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. So they didn't pick Kai because he's harmless. They picked him because he's dangerous. Precisely, Dr. Park confirmed. But here's the thing. Power like that comes with risks. Without proper control, it could destroy everything around him, including himself. As they drove back home, Yuna couldn't stop thinking about what Dr. Park had said. If Kai really was descended from the Arender, then the Verithy hadn't ended the war out of kindness. They'd done it out of fear. And now, humanity was caught in the middle of something far greater than anyone realized. That night, as they lay in bed, Yuna turned to Kai. "No matter what happens," she whispered, "I'm here for you, always." Kai smiled weakly, though his eyes reflected the weight of the truth. "Thank you," he murmured. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Outside, the stars twinkled silently in the vast expanse of the night sky. Somewhere out there, unseen forces continued to watch and wait. For Yuna and Kai, the real battle was just beginning, one that would test not only their courage, but the very limits of what it meant to be human. The days that followed were filled with tension and uncertainty. Yuna and Kai tried to go about their lives as normally as possible, but the weight of Dr. Park's revelation hung over them like a storm cloud. Every time Kai accidentally caused something strange to happen, like making a pen float off the table or causing the lights to flicker, they both froze, exchanging worried glances. It was becoming harder to deny the truth. Kai wasn't just an ordinary man. He carried within him the remnants of a power so immense it terrified even the Verithy. Yuna spent hours reading through the notes Dr. Park had given her. The scientist had included fragments of ancient texts and legends about the Arender, pieced together from various alien archives. According to these writings, the Arender weren't conquerors or tyrants, they were guardians. Their role was to maintain balance across the universe, ensuring no single species grew too powerful or destructive. But their abilities often corrupted them, leading to devastating wars that nearly tore apart entire galaxies. In the end, the Arender vanished, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. As she studied the documents, Yuna felt a mix of awe and dread. If Kai truly shared their bloodline, then he wasn't just dangerous, he was potentially unstoppable. Yet, despite the risks, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Maybe his powers could be used for good, not destruction. But first, they needed to figure out how to control them. One evening, while practicing meditation techniques Dr. Park had recommended, Kai suddenly gasped. His hands began glowing faintly, and the air around him shimmered like heat waves rising from asphalt. Startled, Yuna rushed to his side. "Kai, are you okay?" He shook his head, breathing heavily. I don't know what's happening. It's like there's something inside me trying to break free." Yuna knelt beside him, placing a calming hand on his shoulder. "Focus," she urged. "Take deep breaths. You're stronger than this." Slowly, the glow faded, and Kai slumped forward, exhausted. "It's getting harder to keep it under control," he admitted. "Every time it happens, it feels like I'm losing myself." Determined to help, Yuna suggested they practice every day. She taught him grounding exercises she'd learned during her years as a diplomat, ways to center his thoughts and emotions. At first, progress was slow. Kai struggled to harness the energy coursing through him, often feeling drained afterward. But gradually, he began making small breakthroughs. One afternoon, while sitting in their apartment, Kai focused intently on a glass of water resting on the table. After several minutes, the liquid inside started rippling, then lifted into the air, forming a perfect sphere. Yuna watched in amazement as Kai guided the floating orb around the room before gently setting it back down. For the first time in weeks, he smiled, a genuine, relieved smile. "I did it," he whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "I actually controlled it." Yuna hugged him tightly. "You're amazing," she said. "We'll keep working on this. Together, we'll master it." But their moment of triumph was short-lived. That night, as they slept, a loud rumbling jolted them awake. The ground shook violently, sending books tumbling from shelves and furniture sliding across the floor. Outside, the sky lit up with flashes of light, accompanied by a deafening roar. Grabbing a flashlight, Yuna and Kai ran to the balcony. What they saw made their blood run cold. A massive portal had opened high above the city, its edges crackling with energy. From it emerged dozens of sleek, black ships bearing the unmistakable insignia of the Veruthi. "They're back," Kai muttered. His fists clenched tightly. Before they could react, a smaller craft descended rapidly toward their building. Within moments, armed Veruthi soldiers surrounded them. Their weapons trained on Kai. One of the aliens stepped forward. Its insect-like features twisted into what looked like a sneer. "Your presence here is unacceptable," it hissed. "You are a threat to all life. Surrender now, or face annihilation." Yuna stepped protectively in front of Kai. "What do you want from him?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Haven't you done enough already?" The Veruthi ignored her, focusing instead on Kai. "You cannot hide what you are," it continued. "The Arender legacy burns within you. If left unchecked, you will destroy everything, including your precious humans." Kai took a step forward, his eyes blazing with determination. "I won't let that happen," he said firmly. "I'm not my ancestors. I won't make the same mistakes." For a moment, the Veruthi hesitated, its glowing eyes narrowing. Then, without warning, it raised its weapon and fired. A bolt of searing energy shot toward Kai, but before it could strike, a shimmering barrier materialized in front of him, deflecting the attack. Everyone froze, staring in shock at the translucent shield hovering between Kai and the Veruthi. Even Kai seemed surprised by what he'd done. Slowly, the barrier dissipated, leaving silence in its wake. The Veruthi commander growled angrily. "This changes nothing," it spat. "We will return, and next time. We won't hold back." With that, the soldiers retreated, boarding their ships and disappearing back through the portal. When the danger passed, Yuna turned to Kai, her heart pounding. "You saved us," she breathed. "You really did it." Kai didn't respond right away. Instead, he stared at his trembling hands, the reality of what he just accomplished sinking in. "I don't know how long I can keep doing this," he finally admitted. "Every time I use my powers, it feels like I'm pushing against something huge and uncontrollable." Yuna placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're not alone in this," she reminded him. "We'll find a way to make it work." We have to. Over the next few days, news of the Veruthi's return spread quickly. Governments scrambled to prepare defenses, though everyone knew conventional weapons wouldn't stand a chance against such advanced technology. Meanwhile, public opinion about Kai shifted dramatically. Some hailed him as Earth's savior, while others accused him of being a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Despite the chaos, Yuna refused to let fear dictate their actions. She convinced Kai to continue training, determined to strengthen his control over his abilities. Each session pushed him further, unlocking new levels of power, but also taking a greater toll on his body and mind. One evening, after a particularly grueling practice, Kai collapsed onto the couch, pale and visibly drained. Yuna sat beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "You're pushing yourself too hard," she said softly. "You need rest." "I can't afford to rest," he replied, his voice hoarse. "Not when so many lives depend on me." Yuna sighed, her expression softening. "You're human too, Kai. Remember that. You can't carry the weight of the entire world on your shoulders alone." Kai closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. "Sometimes I wish none of this had ever happened," he confessed. "But then I think about you and what we've built together, and I realize I wouldn't trade it for anything." Outside, the stars twinkled silently in the vast expanse of the night sky. Somewhere beyond them, the Verethi plotted their next move. But for now, Yuna and Kai found solace in each other's presence, drawing strength from the bond they shared. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as equals, as partners, and as two people determined to protect the fragile peace they had fought so hard to achieve. The days leading up to the Verethi's inevitable return felt like living under a dark cloud. Yuna and Kai worked tirelessly, knowing that Earth's survival depended on their ability to prepare for what was coming. Kai pushed himself harder than ever, practicing his newfound abilities until he could barely stand. Each success brought him closer to mastering his powers, but it also came at a cost physically, mentally, and emotionally. Yuna watched as Kai grew thinner, his face pale from exhaustion. Dark circles formed under his eyes, and his hands often trembled, even when he wasn't using his powers. She worried about him constantly, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him to stop. They both knew there was no time to waste. The Verethi weren't just going to leave them alone this time. Whatever happened next would be decisive. It would determine whether humanity lived or died. One morning, while they were training in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Seoul, Kai attempted something more ambitious than usual. He focused intently on a pile of scrap metal lying in the corner, willing it to move. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the pieces began to rise into the air, twisting and reshaping themselves into intricate patterns. It was beautiful, a testament to the raw power flowing through him. But as Kai concentrated, sweat poured down his face, and his breathing became labored. Suddenly, with a sharp gasp, he collapsed to his knees, clutching his chest. The metal clattered loudly to the ground, scattering everywhere. "Kai!" Yuna rushed to his side, helping him sit up. "Are you okay?" He nodded weakly, though his body shook uncontrollably. I think so," he managed to say between ragged breaths. "It's just, every time I push too far, it feels like part of me is being ripped apart." Yuna's heart ached for him. She wanted to scream at the unfairness of it all. Why did Kai have to bear this burden? Why couldn't the universe give them a break? Instead, she forced herself to stay calm, squeezing his hand tightly. "We'll take it slower tomorrow," she promised. "You don't have to do everything at once." Kai smiled faintly, though his expression remained troubled. "Slower won't stop them from coming back," he said quietly. "And when they do, we'll need everything I've got." As the days passed, tensions escalated across the globe. Governments mobilized armies, evacuating civilians from major cities and preparing makeshift shelters. Scientists worked around the clock to develop weapons capable of defending against the Verethi, though everyone knew conventional technology wouldn't stand a chance. Meanwhile, rumors spread among the population, dividing people into two camps: those who believed Kai was humanity's last hope, and those who saw him as a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Through it all, Yuna stood by Kai's side, refusing to let doubt creep in. She reminded him daily of why they were fighting, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had suffered during the war. Together, they visited refugee camps, offering words of encouragement and helping wherever they could. Seeing the gratitude in people's eyes gave Kai renewed strength, even if only temporarily. Then, one night, the sky lit up once again. A massive portal opened high above Earth, larger and brighter than before. From it emerged hundreds of Verethi ships, their sleek forms gliding silently through the atmosphere. Cities erupted into chaos as people fled for safety, while military forces scrambled to respond. Yuna and Kai watched from their apartment balcony, the sight chilling them to the bone. This wasn't just a skirmish. It was an invasion. The Varathi meant business this time, and they weren't leaving without finishing what they started. "We need to get to the command center," Yuna said urgently, grabbing her coat. "They'll need our help coordinating defenses." Kai hesitated, his gaze fixed on the glowing portal. "No," he said finally, his voice firm despite the fear in his eyes. "This isn't a fight they can win with guns and missiles. If we're going to stop them, I have to face them myself." Yuna froze, staring at him in disbelief. "You can't go out there alone. You'll be killed." "I might die either way," Kai replied, turning to look at her. His expression was resolute, unwavering. "But if I stay here, billions of others will die too. I can't let that happen." For a moment, Yuna didn't know what to say. Fear clawed at her chest, threatening to overwhelm her. But then she remembered something Dr. Park had told them weeks earlier. Power like this comes with responsibility. Kai wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for everyone. And he couldn't do it alone. "I'm coming with you," she declared, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Kai opened his mouth to argue, but seeing the determination in her eyes, he relented. "All right," he said softly, "but stay close to me. I don't know how much control I'll have once things get intense." Together, they made their way to the heart of the city, where the battle was already raging. Explosions rocked the streets, sending debris flying in every direction. The air smelled of smoke and burning metal, and the cries of terrified civilians echoed through the chaos. Despite the danger, Yuna and Kai pressed onward, guided by a shared sense of purpose. When they reached the central plaza, Kai stepped forward, raising his hands toward the sky. The Varathi ships hovered menacingly overhead, their weapons trained on the crowd below. For a moment, everything seemed frozen in time. Then, with a deep breath, Kai unleashed his full potential. Waves of energy surged outward from his body, rippling through the air like an invisible storm. Buildings shook, and the ground cracked beneath their feet. The Varathi ships faltered, their engines sputtering as they struggled to maintain altitude. Yuna shielded her eyes from the blinding light emanating from Kai's hands. She had never seen anything like it, raw, untamed power radiating in every direction. Yet, even as she marveled at his strength, she noticed how much it was costing him. His movements became jerky, his face contorted in pain. Still, he pushed forward, determined to protect the people counting on him. "You cannot win," a voice boomed from above. One of the Varathi commanders descended onto the battlefield, its towering form casting a long shadow over the plaza. "Your kind always destroys itself in the end." Kai gritted his teeth, focusing all his energy on the alien leader. With a single gesture, he sent a bolt of shimmering light hurtling toward the creature. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the area, knocking everyone, including Yuna, off their feet. When the dust settled, the Varathi commander lay motionless on the ground, its armored body scorched and broken. Its remaining forces hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Finally, one of the ships turned and fled, followed quickly by the others. Within moments, the portal closed, leaving behind an eerie silence. Yuna crawled over to Kai, who had collapsed to his knees. His entire body trembled, and his skin glowed faintly with residual energy. Tears streamed down her face as she wrapped her arms around him. "You did it," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "You saved us." Kai leaned into her embrace, his breathing shallow. "Not alone," he murmured. "Never alone." As survivors began emerging from hiding, cheering and embracing one another, Yuna held Kai tightly, refusing to let go. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, The Varathi might return someday, and Kai's powers would always carry risks. But for now, they had won a victory born not just of strength, but of love, trust, and sacrifice. In that moment, amidst the ruins of a battered world, Yuna realized something profound. True power wasn't about domination or destruction. It was about protecting the ones you cared about, no matter the cost. And in doing so, Kai had proven himself to be more than just a descendant of the Arender. He was human in every sense that mattered. The aftermath of the battle left Earth in a state of stunned silence. The Varathi had retreated, their ships vanishing into the void as quickly as they had come. For the first time in decades, humanity dared to believe that peace might truly be possible. But for Yuna and Kai, the victory felt bittersweet. The cost of stopping the invasion weighed heavily on them both, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Kai lay unconscious in a makeshift medical tent set up in the heart of Seoul. His body was battered and weak, his skin still faintly glowing with residual energy. Doctors and scientists surrounded him, monitoring his vitals and debating what to do next. No one had ever encountered someone like Kai before, someone capable of wielding such immense power without fully understanding its limits. They feared that if he pushed himself too far again, it might kill him. Yuna refused to leave his side. She sat by his bed, holding his hand tightly, whispering words of encouragement, even though she wasn't sure he could hear her. Her mind raced with questions. What would happen when Kai woke up? Would he recover fully, or would the strain of using his powers leave lasting damage? And most importantly, how would humanity react to what they had witnessed? Outside the tent, the world was beginning to rebuild once more. Survivors gathered in the streets, sharing stories of the miraculous events they had seen. Some spoke of Kai with reverence, calling him a hero who had saved them from certain doom. Others whispered nervously about the dangers of his abilities, wondering if he could truly be trusted. Governments convened emergency meetings, trying to decide how to handle the situation. Should Kai be celebrated or contained? As the hours passed, Kai finally stirred. His eyes fluttered open, meeting Yuna's tear-filled gaze. "Hey," he murmured, his voice hoarse and barely audible. "Hey, yourself," Yuna replied, forcing a smile despite the lump in her throat. "How are you feeling?" Kai groaned softly, shifting slightly in the bed. "Like I got hit by a spaceship," he joked weakly. Then, more seriously, he added, Did we win?" Yuna nodded, squeezing his hand. "You did it, Kai. You stopped them. The Varathi are gone for now, at least." For a moment, relief washed over Kai's face. But then his expression darkened, and he looked away. "At what cost?" he asked quietly. "I almost lost control out there. If I hadn't been able to hold on, I don't even want to think about what might have happened." Yuna leaned closer, her voice firm but gentle. "You didn't lose control. You saved billions of lives, including mine. That's something to be proud of." Kai sighed, closing his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, there was a flicker of determination in his gaze. "We can't keep living like this, Yuna, running from one crisis to the next, waiting for the next enemy to show up. There has to be a better way." Yuna hesitated, unsure of what to say. She knew Kai was right. They couldn't rely solely on his powers to protect Earth forever. But finding another solution seemed impossible. How could humanity stand against threats like the Varathi without someone like Kai? Before she could respond, a group of officials entered the tent, led by General Soo-Jin Lee, the head of United Earth Command. Her stern expression softened slightly when she saw Kai awake. "Mr. Lee," she began, her tone respectful but cautious, "we need to talk." Kai glanced at Yuna, then back at the general. "About what?" he asked warily. General Lee pulled up a chair, sitting down beside his bed. "About your future and ours. Your actions today prove beyond any doubt that you're humanity's greatest asset. But they also raised concerns. If word gets out about your abilities, it could cause panic or worse, attract other hostile forces. We need to figure out how to move forward carefully. Kai frowned, his grip tightening on Yuna's hand. What are you suggesting? Lock me up somewhere so no one finds out? No, General Lee replied quickly. Nothing like that. But we do need to establish guidelines to ensure your powers are used responsibly and safely. And we need to prepare for the possibility that the Virathi may return. If they do, we'll need more than just raw power to defend ourselves. Over the next few days, plans were made. Scientists worked tirelessly to study Kai's abilities, hoping to find ways to help him manage them without risking his life. Engineers designed new technologies inspired by what they had seen during the battle, aiming to create defenses capable of standing against alien threats. Meanwhile, diplomats reached out to surviving colonies across the galaxy, seeking alliances to strengthen Earth's position. Through it all, Yuna stayed by Kai's side, supporting him every step of the way. Together, they traveled to different parts of the world, meeting with leaders and speaking to survivors. Wherever they went, people greeted them with a mix of awe and gratitude. Some still viewed Kai with suspicion, but many others saw him as a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, humanity could rise above. One evening, as they stood together on a hill overlooking Seoul, Kai turned to Yuna with a thoughtful expression. Do you ever wonder why it had to be us? He asked softly. Why we ended up here, fighting battles we never asked for? Yuna smiled faintly, leaning her head against his shoulder. Sometimes, she admitted. But then I think about everything we've been through and everything we've accomplished together. Maybe it's not about why it happened. Maybe it's about what we choose to do with it. Kai nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The city below sparkled with lights, a testament to the resilience of those who called it home. Despite everything, life was moving forward. People were healing, rebuilding, and dreaming of a brighter future. You know, Kai said after a long pause, the Arendar weren't just powerful. They were guardians. They protected balance in the universe. Maybe that's what I'm meant to do too. Not fight wars, but maintain peace. Make sure no one, not humans, not aliens, gets too greedy or destructive. Yuna looked up at him, her eyes shining with pride. I think you'd be great at it, she said. And I'll always be here to help you, no matter what. Kai smiled, pulling her closer. Thank you, he whispered. For everything? As they stood there, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky, they both knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Threats still loomed beyond Earth's borders, and Kai's powers remained a double-edged sword. But for the first time in a long while, they allowed themselves to feel hopeful. Together, they had faced the impossible and emerged stronger because of it. In the end, Yuna realized something important. True strength didn't come from power alone. It came from connection, from love, trust, and the willingness to stand by each other no matter what. And as long as she and Kai had that, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The road to peace would be long and difficult, but they were ready to walk it together, one step at a time.